Have you ever met someone who always thinks they know everything? They speak with confidence, argue with others, and consider themselves the center of wisdom. But underneath it all, there's something interesting. The more a person thinks they know everything, the more closed their mind is to the truth. Socrates, the Greek philosopher who was the main inspiration for Stoicism, once said, "The only thing I know is that I know nothing." This statement is not merely an expression of humility, but a profound principle. The more we are aware of our limitations, the more open we are to wisdom. In today's information-rich world, many people are competing to look smart. Social media is filled with opinions, arguments, and endless debates, as if everyone is an expert in every field. But is that really true? Or is this just an illusion of a closed mind? Stoicism teaches us to act like we know nothing, not to be completely stupid, but to be open, willing to listen and not to jump to conclusions. When we accept that we don't know everything, we become wiser, calmer, and more likely to learn. In the next section, we will discuss how this attitude can increase peace of mind and prevent us from falling into the destructive trap of ego. How can we apply it in our daily lives? Let's move on to the next section. When ego becomes the greatest enemy. If there is one thing that often hinders a person from growing, it is ego. Ego makes us want to always look smart, feel right, and be reluctant to admit mistakes. But in Stoicism, ego is considered an enemy that must be controlled. Imagine you are having a discussion with someone. In the middle of the conversation, an argument comes up that seems to shake your beliefs. If you have a big ego, you might immediately reject the argument, find reasons to argue, or even attack the person who made it. But if you adopt the attitude of, "I don't know anything," your reaction will be different. You will wonder, is there any truth in what he or she is saying? Is this something I can learn from? This is why Stoicism teaches us not to be overly attached to our own opinions and beliefs. This does not mean that we should be easily influenced, but that we should be open to the possibility that we might be wrong. How does ego trap us? Making it hard to learn. If we feel like we know everything, there is no room to learn. People who are overconfident in their knowledge often close themselves off from new perspectives. On the other hand, people who are humble will find it easier to accept new insights and grow. Triggering negative emotions, the ego is often the trigger for anger, disappointment, and stress. When someone criticizes us or offers a different perspective, the ego takes it as a personal attack. In fact, criticism can be a valuable tool for self-improvement, making it hard for us to adapt. The world is constantly changing, and people who are too attached to their own way of thinking will have a hard time growing. They will resist change even when it is needed. How to control your ego? By acting like you don't know anything. Train yourself to listen, not just wait for your turn to speak. When discussing, many people just wait for their turn to speak without really listening. If we are willing to listen attentively, we can understand more things than just replying with our own arguments. Don't be afraid to say, "I don't know." Many people feel embarrassed to admit that they don't know something. In fact, saying "I don't know" is a sign that we are confident enough to continue learning. Test your beliefs regularly. Don't just believe everything you think is true. Challenge your own beliefs by reading other perspectives or discussing with people who have different views. Don't take yourself too seriously. Sometimes we worry too much about how others see us. In reality, others don't think as highly of us as we think. Adopting a relaxed attitude and not getting caught up in the illusion of, "I have to be right all the time," will make life a lot easier. Ultimately, controlling our ego doesn't mean we should underestimate ourselves. In fact, by acting like we don't know anything, we open up the opportunity for continued growth. Serenity in ignorance. One of the biggest benefits of acting like you don't know anything is peace of mind. Many people experience stress, anxiety, and social pressure because they feel like they have to have the answer to everything. They're afraid of looking stupid, afraid of being wrong, or afraid of being criticized. But if we can let go of the need to always be right, life becomes much easier. Stoicism teaches that we cannot control everything, but we can control our reactions to it. By accepting that we do not know everything, we also accept that we do not always have to have control over everything. Why ignorance can bring peace. Reducing the burden of always being right. Many people feel the need to always defend their opinions even when they are unsure. This creates unnecessary pressure. By adopting an "I don't know" attitude, we free ourselves from the need to always win a debate or discussion, helping us accept life's uncertainty. Life is full of uncertainty. No one knows for sure what will happen in the future. People who are too sure of their predictions are often disappointed when reality does not match their expectations. On the other hand, people who accept that they do not know everything are more flexible in dealing with change, makes us more patient and less easily offended. Many conflicts occur because people feel offended when their opinions are challenged. If we practice acting as if we don't know everything, we will be less easily provoked when dealing with people who have different views. We will be more patient and more focused on understanding, rather than arguing, keeping us from overthinking. One of the main causes of stress is thinking too much about things that are beyond our control. People who feel they must always have the answer to everything often get caught in a cycle of overthinking. Instead, if we accept that we don't always know the answer, we can more quickly let go of unnecessary worry. How to train yourself to be calmer with an attitude of not knowing anything. Stop reacting instantly. When faced with an emotional situation, train yourself to pause before responding. Ask yourself, do I really know what's going on? Do I need to react now? Accept that the world cannot always be fully understood. Not every question has a clear answer, and that's okay. We don't need to understand everything to live well. Reduce information overload. In the digital age, we are bombarded with information from a variety of sources. Sometimes it's best to take a step back and accept that we don't have to follow every news or trend. Train yourself to be neutral. When you hear new opinions or news, get used to not immediately believing or rejecting them. Take a neutral stance and let the information sink in before jumping to conclusions. When we accept that we don't know everything, life becomes more peaceful. We are less burdened by the need to be right, less offended by criticism, and more at ease in the face of uncertainty. Becoming a liked and respected person. One of the unexpected benefits of acting like you don't know anything is that you become more sociable and respected by others. Why? Because humble and open people are more fun to talk to than those who always want to appear smart. Have you ever met someone who, whenever they talk, always tries to show that they know everything? They often interrupt, correct others, and rarely listen. People like this are often disliked, even though they are actually intelligent. On the other hand, people who have a humble and open attitude are more respected because they make others feel comfortable. Why are people who act like they don't know anything more liked? They give others space to speak. Most people would rather be heard than lectured. When we don't always want to show that we know everything, we give others a chance to speak and feel valued. This creates better relationships. They appear humble and not arrogant. Arrogance is one of the most disliked traits. People who are overly confident in their knowledge are often considered arrogant. On the other hand, someone who is willing to say, I don't know, or that's interesting, can you explain more, will be considered more humble and open. They don't judge quickly. Many people are afraid to speak up or share their opinions because they are afraid of being judged. People who act like they don't know anything tend to be more accepting of differing opinions, making others feel comfortable talking to them. They build meaningful relationships more easily. When we focus more on understanding than on proving we are right, we can build deeper relationships with others. We become better listeners, more understanding of others' feelings, and more trustworthy. How to apply this attitude in everyday life. Don't rush to give your opinion. When someone is talking, make it a habit to listen without immediately thinking about how to respond. Let the conversation flow, ask questions, and show genuine interest. Use condescending words. Instead of saying, I already know that, try saying, that's interesting, can you tell me more? Or I don't really understand that, can you explain? This makes the conversation more enjoyable and doesn't make the other person feel belittled. Don't always try to correct others. If someone says something inappropriate, it is not always necessary to immediately correct them, unless it is important. Sometimes letting others speak without feeling corrected can keep social relationships harmonious. Be an active listener. Try to really understand what the other person is saying, rather than just waiting for your turn to speak. Respond in ways that show you are listening, such as nodding or repeating important points they make. By adopting this attitude, we will not only become more likable but also more respected. People will see us as someone who is wise, open, and fun to talk to. The path to true wisdom. Ultimately, acting like you don't know anything isn't just about being humble or being more popular with others. It's the path to true wisdom. In Stoicism, wisdom isn't about having the answers to everything, but rather about having a deep understanding of one's own limitations and a willingness to continue learning. Truly wise people don't feel the need to always appear smart. They don't feel the need to win an argument. They don't get annoyed when someone has a different view, and they aren't afraid to admit their ignorance. Instead, they enjoy the process of learning and gaining new insights from everyday life. Wisdom is a process, not a destination. One of the central tenets of Stoicism is that wisdom is not something that can be achieved overnight. It is a lifelong journey that requires constant practice. When we accept that we don't know everything, we open ourselves to new possibilities and accelerate our learning process. Think of someone you consider to be truly wise. Do they often brag about how smart they are? Or do they listen, reflect, and speak calmly? 3 pillars of true wisdom. The humility to admit ignorance. The more we know, the more we realize that the world is much more complex than we imagined. The truly wise are not afraid to say, "I don't know much about that yet." Unquenchable curiosity. Those who think they know everything will stop learning. On the other hand, those who continue to question, explore, and seek new understanding will continue to grow. Ability to control oneself. A wise person is not easily offended, does not feel the need to prove himself, and does not rush into making decisions. They are calm because they are not caught up in ego or illusions of certainty. How to continue this journey? Keep learning from various sources. Don't be fixated on just one point of view. Read books, listen to others, and dare to question your own thoughts. Train yourself to respond calmly. Whenever a situation arises that makes you want to react quickly, try to pause for a moment and ask, "Do I really know everything about this?" Accept that uncertainty is part of life. Not everything can be explained or predicted. The sooner we accept this reality, the easier it will be for us to live life in peace. Conclusion. There is an old story about a Zen master who poured tea into his disciple's cup until it overflowed. When the disciple asked why he poured so much, the master said, "Like this cup, you are full of your own opinions and assumptions. How can I teach you anything if you don't empty your cup first?" So it is with life. If we are too sure that we know everything, we will not learn anything new. But if we act like we don't know anything, we open ourselves to unexpected lessons, whether from experience, other people, or life itself. So from now on, try not to always feel like you have to have the answers. Embrace the uncertainty, be open to new lessons, and take life lightly.